Disclaimer: the contents of Studio 151 podcasts and the TU Communication Disorders Connection podcast do not represent the views and beliefs of the University of Tulsa and the Mary Kay Chapman Center.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the TU Communication Disorders Connection podcast. This is your host, Alyssa Hall, and today I'm joined by two very special guests in the studio. Our first guest is Lynnen Robinson, who is a first-year graduate student at the University of Tulsa and also one of my classmates. Lynnen, it's good to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
And our second guest is Lindsey Kehr, who is an SLP currently working at the Little Lighthouse. Lindsey, it's good to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Interestingly, as we were talking about on the way over here, Lynnen and Lindsey know each other.
Yes, I got to have Lynnen in my food group this semester.
So this is not a first-time meeting. We have some history here.
We do.
So I'm going to hand it on over to Lynnen to get us started with some questions for Lindsey.
All right, Lindsey, can you tell us a little bit about your background? Where'd you go to school? How'd you get interested in speech pathology?
So, interesting enough, my first interest was not speech pathology. It was actually physical therapy. And I went to Kansas State University to study kinesiology because I wanted to do physical therapy. And I got my degree in kinesiology thinking that I was going to PT school, and after working as a PT tech for about a year and getting on the wait list for PT school, I decided that I didn't think I wanted to do that for the rest of my life. So I decided to try out a couple of other things, including speech pathology, which I fell in love with. And since that instance, I came to Oklahoma and I got my master's from NSU, and yeah, the rest is history, I guess. One of my internships was actually at the Little Lighthouse, and right as I was graduating, opening came up at the Little Lighthouse, and that's when I got my job.
That's awesome. So we know, at least I know, that there's a lot of AAC that's done at the Little Lighthouse. Can you tell us how you got interested in working with AAC?
So I didn't know a lot about AAC, honestly, until I started working at the Little Lighthouse, just because of the population we work with. It's a lot of AAC and a lot of AT with our population. So our population we work with is kiddos with special needs from 2 to 6 typically, and so a lot of our kids are non-speaking, and so that really just means you have to get creative in what type of technology or what type of alternative communication you can use with them, especially at such a young age when they're just in the beginning of their communication. It's hard sometimes, but it's really a process, I would say.
Do you have any specific certifications or trainings that you have to get with AAC?
Not any in particular. Working at Little Lighthouse, I am a LAMP certified professional, which just basically means I work with LAMP, the application, a lot in my day-to-day basis. So that's one of the applications we use with all of our kiddos, just because we think it's one of the easiest and most applicable ones to use across with our whole population. It obviously isn't going to work with every single kiddo, but we found that for most of our kids, just the motor pattern of LAMP and the core word approach really does benefit the biggest number of our kids. And so that technically is my only certification I have, but it's been really helpful in terms of where I work and who I work with. It's a little disheartening when they're a lot better at it than you, when only having been at it for a few weeks and they're showing you new words and new buttons and you're like, great, I had no idea where that was. So it's fun learning alongside them too.
It is learning alongside them and having to in the session or in your time with them not show that you don't know what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes I have to pause and be like, okay, because I'm looking at it from a different angle, so I have to turn the device and be like, okay, let's look at this at the same view so I know where to find the button.
And I think that's one of the things that I've learned is, as I'm learning AAC, is that it's okay not to have all the answers
Mm-hmm.
because, I mean, you don't, and it's about learning along the way. And I'm really lucky to work with another speech path and an AT professional who I can consult when I do have questions or when I do have complex kiddos. And we have OTs and PTs who also can help in terms of positioning and fine motor and just the various options that we have. And that's really beneficial as well because, like I said, I don't know everything, and it's so nice to be able to have that team aspect when coming at it from AAC.
Did you say you started off in PT?
Yes, I started off wanting to be a PT.
Okay.
No, no. I'm not a PT.
I did not think so. So you worked as a tech?
I worked
for
as
PT?
a tech,
Okay.
Yes.
That's kind of interesting being kind of on one side of the therapeutic team and then like switching to another side.
Yes. I think it helped me kind of get a sense of just kind of how hard they work and just like how physical that side is, and just kind of gave me a glimpse into that area and to that discipline, but just a teeny tiny glimpse.
Yes, the tiniest
Enough.
The tiniest glimpse. So it's nice to know the teeniest bit.
At Little Lighthouse, what age group do you primarily work with?
So our population technically is 0 to 6, but since our wait list is so long, our wait list is 2 to 3 years. Typically our kiddos, we don't get into our school until they're 2. So in the school or developmental center, I work with ages 2 to 6. And so at that point, they're starting to communicate, they're starting to vocalize, they're starting to want to communicate. And so I think it's the perfect time to start to trial different AACs and different various equipment.
How do you involve parents in the process of trialing devices?
That is my biggest challenge and the most important part of any AAC, any device, any communication, obviously. Where they spend the majority of their time is at home. And so the parent is going to be the most important part of the team. And so when we say transdisciplinary team, the parent is a big part of that team. And so the parent usually is the first go-to when we start to trial like any type of device, any type of application. But a lot of times it's hard because they're already doing so much for these kiddos. These kids have so much going on. They have, other therapies. They have doctor's appointments. They also just want to be kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes when I present it, their parents are already overwhelmed or they have already trialed something similar. So it's just about coming at it from a point of understanding and just about meeting them where they're at. And not just the kid, but the parent as well. And just saying, hey, here's this, we can try it at school. If you want to try it at home, that's great. And just kind of showing them the success we can have at school, and then if they carry it over, how much more success we can have too.
How many classes do you teach at Little Lighthouse?
So I currently have 5 classrooms that I serve, and the other speech path serves 5 as well. So each classroom has 8 kiddos with special needs, and so I have 40-ish students. So yeah.
That's awesome. And then how do you modify your classroom environment to support learning?
So we're actually pretty lucky that our classrooms were built to support our learning and our kiddos' learning. So our building was built for our kids. But one thing that we can do is we obviously use a microphone system for our kids who are hard of hearing. We have them up close to our board so that everybody can see. We just try and do everything we can to incorporate, like I said, incorporate all the senses. And so that's why we're so fortunate to be where we are, because this building was made for us.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say we're just really lucky.
What are some of your favorite things about the way the building was built specifically for these kids?
One of my favorite things I would say is the yellow line that you're going to walk down through the hallway. And Lynnen can attest to this. All of our kids, when we walk to food group, they will walk down the yellow line. Whether they realize it or not, they are walking on the yellow line. And it's so cool that even if they don't realize it, they're walking on the yellow line. Another one of my favorite things is there is a marble or tile pattern in between every classroom, and as you walk, each one is different. And so the kids, as they feel their way to the classroom, they can feel each wall is different, and then when they get to their classroom, they can feel the braille or tile on their classroom, which is really cool.
That is cool, and works in like the multi-sensory stuff you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. And I just kind of like how, even though it's set up for our kids and for like accommodations, it does still look like a typical classroom. Like, you wouldn't be able to tell without all the equipment that it is for kiddos with disabilities. It just looks like a pretty typical classroom. And then when you see our kids in it, you're like, oh, this is why this is this way, or this is why this is this way. So that's pretty neat.
That's cool. It's my understanding that the classes at Little Lighthouse are grouped not explicitly by age, but more by like level of functioning. Is that the case?
Correct, yes. So we have a very vigorous process of placing our kids basically where they're going to learn best. So when they come in, we place based on skill and what they're working on and kind of what the teacher teaches best. So when they're placed, we place them where we think they're going to grow, where we think they're going to develop, and where we think they're just going to blossom. And so, yeah, you won't see based on age, you won't see based on diagnosis, you'll just see a bunch of kiddos in a room growing where they're learning best.
Yeah. What are some of the ways you do that initial assessment to figure out where they're going to be?
Well, initially we do screenings at the end of the year. We screen new kids, so they'll come in and we'll just meet them for an hour and we'll just play with them and hang out with them.
Like the most fun assessment.
Yes, correct. And so it's literally just an hour of playtime just to get to know them and see kind of what they're working on, where they're at, and where they need to be. Mm-hmm. And then we get to look at our classroom, what our classrooms are going to look like next year, and what friends we think they're going to have, or what friends, they could work on having, which is really fun to think about where they're going to be next year.
Yeah. I love that you think about friends.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's why this is so important, because when we do place our kids, we're like, okay, this kid is going to be working on playing with this kid. Mm-hmm. So you're already setting up like basically future therapy for the year, because you're setting up like friendships and you're setting up, your future groups, because you're going to be like, oh, this kid will be a peer model for this kid, and this kid will do the talking initially, but this kid might learn from this kiddo. So it's really cool to kind of see the whole process fall into place.
Oh. You kind of set them up for like a little bit of independence to be able to have these interactions with each other and not just with your supervision.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. Although it is quite the process, I will say. It's a giant puzzle and there's 1,000 pieces, but in the end they all fall into place.
Yeah.
I will just say that we love having our TU students, and it's always so fun each semester getting to know 4 new grad students, especially introducing feeding, which is not something that like I got to have in my grad school experience. And so it's really fun getting to see them interact with our kiddos at Little Lighthouse in that way. And so it's a great way to get involved. So we love our TU students.
I know the next students are looking forward to having that opportunity as well.
All right, with that, we are going to wrap up our discussion in sort of the Big 9 area of AAC, feeding, all the things that you guys do at the Lighthouse. You can't narrow it down to one thing. No. So many things. I want to thank both of our guests for joining us in the studio. Lynnen, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
And Lindsey as well, thank you for sharing your expertise with us this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to thank you all for listening in, and we will catch you on the next episode. Goodbye.
For further information or podcast ideas you'd like to share with us, please reach out at 918-631-2504. And remember, communication is not just about words, it's about understanding, empathy, and connection. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep communicating.